Hi everyone, thank you for joining the webinar this evening. I'm conscious it has only just hit 7, so we'll give people a little bit more time, 2 or 3 more minutes, and then we'll get underway. Right then, everyone, it's probably a good time to start the webinar this evening. Firstly, thank you everyone for joining. Conscious that a Monday evening can be a busy time, but thanks everyone, as I say, for logging on. By way of introduction, my name's Dom O'Loughlin. I'm a board director at Rockwell, and we are the developers bringing the proposals forward on One Battersea Bridge, the glass mill building. I am joined by some of the consultant team. I'll go around and introduce everyone. So we've got Lloyd Bush, and Lloyd is from Velocity, our transport consultant. We've got Peter Barbalov, who is our architect at Farrells. We've got David Shiels from DP9, who are our planning consultants. And we've got Sam Martin from Exterior Architecture. They are our landscape architects. Just to kind of kick off and to make it clear, this is going to be a recorded session, and we will make it public at the end. It will go on our website, so anyone who was unable to dial in are able to kind of recap on it. With regards to the format of this evening's presentation, we will take you through the consultation boards which were made public on Saturday, and there will then be an opportunity for question and answers through the text function on the Zoom. So before we get into the exhibition boards, it's probably helpful for me just to give a bit of an overview as to where we are in the planning process to date. So you'll be aware that we submitted a planning application in Q1 of this year, following which there was quite a deal of public interest in the scheme. And essentially that has enabled us as a team, following the various feedback and the various comments that we have received, to listen to that feedback, take stock, and come up with a revised proposal which seeks to address the comments received and also truly maximize the public benefits that we can deliver as part of these proposals. The purpose of the boards is to essentially take you through where we were in terms of the submitted scheme and where the revised proposals will be. So, Peter, if I could pass over to you, please, to take us through the boards.
Thanks, Dom. Hi, my name is Peter Barbalov, and I'm a partner at Farrells with the architects for the scheme. So, as Dom said, we'll take you through the boards, which were presented to everyone on Saturday. Let's talk about the site. So One Battersea Bridge is one of the oldest properties, the actual existing building within the Ransom Dock area, which is the area surrounding the site. The current building systems do not meet, it's an old office building, do not meet the modern energy efficiency and performance standards of what office buildings should be now. The building faced a myriad of issues, including that less than 10% of leases are at commercial rates, and there's a high vacancy rate. There's a very poor access to the Thames path with splitting level changes following to maximize the benefits of the location. It's an old design done at the time. And there's also dead frontage along Battersea Bridge Road. As you probably recall, there's a kind of a high brick wall, which is inaccessible on the site. The conditions in the market also have changed to decline demand, have led to decline demand for large office accommodation in secondary office locations, and this is one of those locations. It also has a large floor plates and lack of outside space, which is difficult to convert to residential use, but we have explored this, which is in our documentation. The wider context, the site is well positioned, easily accessible by walking, cycling, and by public transport. It's within 10 minutes walk to Battersea Park. There's quite a varied context with the River Thames to the north, residential uses to the west, office and education uses to the east, south, with the Royal College of Art. It's also located close to the Royal College of Art and the Fosters and Partners campuses. The site forms part of the existing creative quarter, which is kind of emerging around Ransom Dock. The local planning policy, the Wandsworth Riverside Area Spatial Strategy, it is a focal point of activity where residential-led developments will be promoted. The policy also supports a mixture of uses to increase activity and vibrancy along the riverside. The policy also notes that the loss of office floor space could be considered acceptable, and therefore development should contribute towards a continuous, connected, and legible Thames path. So our proposals cover all these points, and we have addressed them in our design. Next slide, please. So we have submitted proposals earlier this year. So the key features of the submitted proposals we were proposing 142 new high-quality homes, 35% of which would have been affordable, with the split of the affordable of social rent of 70 and the shared ownership of 30%. There were in the original proposal circa 2,000 square foot of new restaurant floor space facing the River Thames, and up to 7,000 square foot of new high quality flexible affordable office floor place. There was new residential outdoor spaces and improved public realm, and of course a new community hub. So what we are showing you today, discussing today, is the change of the affordable, and we also changed the way the mass and the bulk of the building. We actually have improved, sorry, don't go yet, just yet. We have not changed any of the affordable office floor space, the restaurant or the private residential. So it's actually all the good benefits we have improved for. And again, the visuals are showing the top right shows the proposal as it was a few months ago. We have looked at how the public space could be improved, and the image on the bottom right shows the original height of the building, which we have reduced significantly since then. Next slide, please. So the revised proposals, we are proposing new homes. We have reduced slightly because we have reduced the height and the bulk of the building. We are 110 new high quality homes this time. However, we've significantly changed the way the affordable offer is. So we are proposing 50% affordable homes, all at social rent, over 100 which could benefit over 190 Wandsworth residents. And of course, the new private residential outdoor spaces are all part of our proposals. We are mixed use, as we were before. There's a new community hub on site. There will be improved public realm, and there will be, again, up to 7,000 square foot of new high quality, flexible, affordable office floor space and a new restaurant on the river. Sustainability, we are targeting 0.4 urban greening factor, 10% biodiversity net gain, and we're promoting active travel. All these are good sustainability measures which are highly promoted by the GLA as well. Next slide, please. So we are showing the delivery of high quality homes for Wandsworth. So we are proposing 110 homes, 54 of them would be affordable social rented homes. There will be a mix of 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom homes. So there will be family homes on site. Out of 53 large family homes, 27 of which are affordable and social rented homes. And we have high quality residential amenity and urban greening, and we will enhance the public realm. The drawing on the top right shows the proposed current new split of how the building is going to work. So orange shows the private, the blue is the social rent. There's an amenity garden on our top, on the kind of the shoulder level. There is kind of the amenity on the lower levels, and also this does not actually show the restaurant and everything else. And also the slide is showing a typical 3-bed flat as part of our affordable apartment offer. So we can see the high quality, large sizes, and what we're also promoting is high quality and high number of amenity for each individual flat. Next slide. We are also creating a welcoming public realm. As all of you probably know, the current accessibility on the site is pretty bad. It's difficult to navigate, especially if you're trying to pass by people cycling, people running, people pushing buggies. So we will be changing all that. The drawing on the top right shows our proposals of what we're trying to achieve in our ground floor and the improved public realm. We have also set back the kind of the ground on the first floor of the building further to the south, effectively to the right of the drawing, to increase the open space which we are looking at changing at the Thames path. We're providing a very active frontage with a restaurant, residential in yellow, which is the residential entrances. And also towards the south of the site, we have a community use and an entrance to the affordable workspace. So what we're saying is there will be a very active face to Battersea Bridge Road, full of entrances, restaurant, community spaces. And we're also promoting, proposing quite a significant improvement to the landscape and the public realm in the area by providing trees along Battersea Bridge Road and providing a much open and clear environment compared especially to the existing on the site. We are going to be providing a generous multifunctional waterfront plaza along the Thames path with a clear ramp access, which is on the drawing in the middle. So we are providing a accessible, effectively ramp taking you all the way from Battersea Bridge Road to Thames path. So we continue and connect to the Thames path, which is happening in this location. It's the missing link as we see it, because on the other side to the west, effectively, of Battersea Bridge Road is all very nice and it's all very pleasant. But that difficult space and that negotiating point coming from the east, crossing Battersea Bridge Road, we're going to improve that. And we're going to change that, and it's going to be quite wide, accessible ramp where you can push a pram, you can walk, you can push a bike, and you can walk as well, all at the same time. So we are kind of changing the way the whole space works. It will be a new and inviting, accessible public realm, which will be promoting a variety of social and environmental benefits to the creation of a series of new, safe, accessible public spaces. There's an opportunity for art on the site, and we're talking to the RCA to work with them to create something new and special facing the restaurant, so we can actually enjoy this unique location at the River Thames. It's one of the narrowest crossings in this part of the river, and the river bends, so it's a really unique location, we think. And it will be creating a meeting point, an activation along Battersea Bridge Road, and enhance pedestrian legibility and how the whole space works. And we will be completing the Ransom Dock area, because we see it as a campus, including residential, creative offices, and a whole range of other uses and activities. Thank you. Next slide. So as I said, there will be a flexible commercial space, which is going to be part of the creative quarter. We will contribute to the vitality of the surrounding area. We're providing high quality, flexible employment floor space, which will comprise affordable workspace on level 1. So if you look on the kind of the slide to the top right, there's a ground floor where people are, and there's a level above, which is just beneath the arches. All of that level of the building will be the affordable workspace. It will meet the needs of a range of local businesses in the creative industry, including SMEs and startups. It will provide a significant number of jobs for the local area, including jobs for local people, and will activate and enliven the surrounding area through the provision of active frontages, as I discussed earlier. We're also promoting the use of the creation of a restaurant on the nose of the building, on the ground floor. If you remember the slide before, there was kind of a pink area, so we are promoting the location of a restaurant there. It will be one of those unique places where you can be able to see the river, you can see the changing light along the river. And with our new public space and our waterside plaza, it will be a very nice place for people to enjoy and spend an afternoon and evening at. So this is part of our offer for the public realm. Next slide, please. We also have a sustainability approach, which we are promoting onto the site, where we include delivery of highly sustainable development, which incorporate a range of zero carbon measures with our commitment to deliver an on-site reduction in regulated carbon emissions to meet the ambitious sustainability targets, both by the GLA and Wandsworth. So there will be no net increase of car parking spaces on site. There will be circa 240 cycling spaces. There will be additional blue badge parking spaces, which don't exist at the moment. And of course, charging spaces for electric vehicles will be provided. We are targeting, as I said earlier, 10% biodiversity net gain, 0.0 urban greening factor. We are promoting active travel, and we are looking at very serious zero carbon measures. And as part of our offer, also we're providing community space to the south of the building, to very close to the existing bus stop, which you can see on the visualization on the bottom right. We are providing a community hub following feedback received during our previous rounds of public consultation. We will therefore be providing an exciting community space, which provide a facility that offers genuine social value for social areas. So it's a kind of a 3-story flexible space. We have spoken to providers in the area, and we think it provides a series of spaces and also a particular kind of address and an entrance from Battersea Bridge Road, which will be quite a unique offer in this particular location. And of course, there'll be events there, and there'll be all sorts of activities which can happen. So this is part of our activation of Battersea Bridge Road, from effectively a ramp taking you to the bridge to something which has entrances, has community spaces, has restaurants, has greening, and has space for people to kind of enjoy and really kind of say that this is a particular special place in this part of the river. Next slide, please. Dom, I would pass over to you to discuss some of our more specific public benefits of the proposal.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. So this page essentially distills all of the public benefits which the proposals will bring forward. I think primarily this is an underutilized brownfield site which we are looking to regenerate and bring forward, which we will believe will be a transformative scheme. It's going to be delivering 110 new homes, 50% of which are going to be affordable. So that, into numbers terms, will result in 54 social rented units being delivered as part of this. As Peter's touched upon, Rockwell have expressions of interest from a number of housing associations already. This 50% offer is deliverable. We believe in it. And, should we get planning permission, it is very much our intention to get on site and deliver it and deliver this. All of the affordable workspace, or all of the workspace being re-provided, will be affordable. So that's up to 7,000 square foot of affordable workspace, which will be targeting smaller SMEs who operate within the borough. As Peter has mentioned, there is a community use which we've had a number of discussions with 3 local charities. The 3 charities that we've been speaking to are Keeping Families Together, Little Village, and the Catherine Low Settlement. All 3 of the charities have formally submitted expressions of interest, which essentially means that they would like to take on and manage that space. And we have made a commitment in our planning submission to say that that space will be given free of charge to one or all of those charities. So that will be a space that will truly be for the community, that can truly be used, and as I say, will be free of charge. With regards to ground floor activation, we've already touched upon the fact that the existing building does absolutely nothing for this part of Battersea. It essentially turns its back on Battersea Bridge Road. Our new proposals are looking to activate 360, really bring some life into this part of Battersea, and we believe the ground floor uses, be it the community use, be it the restaurant use, will really bring some most welcome activity to this part of the bridge. The public realm enhancements we've already touched upon. The fact that we're setting the building back, I think that's a really important point. The existing building line, as I say, is going to be set back to make that space far more generous. And as Peter touched upon, we are speaking to the Royal College of Art about some potential opportunities for there to be a sculpture, which will be or has the potential to be on a rotation, so can be changed every 3, 6, 9 months, whereby students at the RCA can come up with some designs and have their artwork and their sculpture work displayed in public, which I think personally is pretty cool and pretty exciting. The sustainability credentials, this is going to be a best-in-class scheme. We have really thought about and really pushed our consultant team to make sure that what we are delivering here is at the height of sustainability. And then on the wider benefits, obviously there's going to be Section 106 contributions, there's going to be SIL contributions, which goes without saying are going to be very, very important to Wandsworth and the GLA. So on to the next slide, please.
Can I just because we haven't actually said, so we have actually it's not quite clear in the slides. So we have reduced the height of the building by 18 meters, which is it's 5 residential floors. So it's a completely different feel. And the next slide will show you a CGI of how the building is actually reduced in height and in size from what we were proposing before. Sorry, Dom.
Cheers, Peter. Yeah, and this is essentially a sum up page, and please do give some thoughts to some questions and put them in the text question box for you. With regards to the targeted timeline, you can see we are hoping to submit a planning act, or we will be submitting the amendments to the application this month, and we are targeting a planning committee Q4 Q1 2025, with the ambition therefore to start on site Q3 2025. The fact that the scheme has 2 cores will enable us to deliver and hand over the affordable housing Q2 2027, with the ultimate finish and PC date Q3 Q4 2027. So that's the end of the formal presentation, taking you through the exhibition boards. I'm now going to turn to some of the questions. The first one being that there seems to be quite a few themes and questions around the design quality, Peter, and the approach that you've taken there with regards to material palette. So it might be helpful if you kind of elaborate on that, please. You're on mute, Pete.
You're on mute, Peter.
Of course, sorry. Thank you. Thanks, Dom. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those sites which is a very specific site. So what we've been trying to create is something which could be thought as a timeless. So it's not necessarily a flashy architecture. It's something which responds to the unique location of the site. It's a turning point. It's a point where the river changes its direction. We have been inspired by the bridge, which is a fantastic bridge. And what we're trying to do is to create a marker, create a point which, shows this unique location along the river, relates to the height and everything of the adjacent high buildings, and also creates a kind of a townscape marker. So London is quite interesting. As you walk around, you start seeing things. So we believe this particular location can benefit from a place for a building which shows that location. And therefore, the architecture needs to be a little bit kind of not necessarily secondary, but kind of more subdued, more kind of informative, high quality, but not necessarily trying to shout. So it's a kind of a balance between a shouting, "I'm here, I have arrived," but also being there for a very long time, hopefully, and signifying this particular location on the site. And as I said, it's going to be very high quality materials. We're using terracotta, so that's going to really last for a very long time. We are being inspired by the bridge, as I said, especially in our design of the ground floor and the first floor. And we're keeping this kind of simple, smooth look and feel to the tower to kind of not distract from the unique presence and location on the river.
Thanks, Pete. some more kind of themes in questioning are around the car parking and how many car parking spaces there are, and also where will the 270 proposed bikes be parked. So Lloyd, you're probably best placed to answer this, please.
Yeah, no problem. So I'll start with the car parking. And again, I don't think it was mentioned in the run through, but the existing site currently has 33 parking spaces, which some people might not be aware of because they sit within an undercroft area accessed from the rear of the site. And our proposal reduces the number of parking spaces to 18. Five of which will initially be disabled parking, but up to 11 will become disabled parking should demand require, to meet policy requirements of London Plan. So it is a reduction from what exists at the moment, and alongside that, we anticipate a reduction in the kind of use and vehicle trips associated with those parking spaces, particularly within the peak periods, which typically is when office demand would have taken place with the existing parking spaces. And the cycle parking is slightly less than 270 in totality. It is over 200 for the residential element of the development, but obviously that's reduced since you would have last seen the scheme. But the cycle parking will be located within the basement for the residential parking. There'll be two separate parking stores. They are so that they can access the two separate cores of the building. And then there'll also be a ground floor store, which is of a smaller size, but to meet the policy for the commercial elements, so the restaurant and office space and community use, so that there's cycle parking associated with them. Then outside of the site, to the south of the site, there'll be some additional cycle parking accessible to the public for visitors as well.
Thanks, Lloyd. Next question's around the social housing, and David, this is probably a good one for you to answer in terms of how will the council make sure that the affordable housing is delivered and who qualifies for the affordable housing?
Thanks, Dom. So the affordable housing provision, just to remind everyone, is that it's entirely social rented. There's no intermediate or what's referred to as intermediate homes in the affordable provision anymore, which are basically shared ownership units. They're going to be entirely social rented, which is genuine council housing, operated by a registered provider, someone like Peabody. The Dom mentioned a few names that are that have issued letters of support, like Wandle, who are very active in the borough. So those homes will go to those on the waiting list and on the council's waiting list. Those who require council housing, they'll be housed within this development within the 50% of affordable units that are to be provided. In terms of how they're secured, there will be a legal agreement known as a 106 agreement that's attached to any planning permission that's granted on the site, which basically means that there will be an obligation placed upon the developer, Rockwell, to deliver those homes. There will be a number of obligations within that basically require those homes to have been completed and potentially also occupied before the private homes, before the market homes can be. I think a question that's come up, that came up at the event at the weekend, and I think someone's asked a similar question today, is could someone go back and try basically do a backtrack and remove the affordable homes after we've secured planning permission? It just simply isn't the case that would ever be allowed. The key public benefit that we've always presented on this development is the affordable housing delivery. So there's no option here, and to basically reduce the affordable provision after we've got planning permission. In any case, there would be absolutely no chance at all that Wandsworth Council would allow that to happen. So once the units are secured, that's the units that will be delivered.
Thanks, Dave. Another one for you. A key theme is the local plan position on tall buildings and why we are proposing a tall building outside of a designated tall building zone. So it'd be good if you could cover that one, please.
Yeah, sure. So this has been covered in detail in the planning submission that that everyone will have access to online, and I'm sure a few people have read the documents that were submitted in support of that submission, the planning statement, design and access statement, and the townscape and visual impact assessment, for instance, go into the detail on this point. In short, the local plan indicates where tall buildings should be directed within the borough. We don't see it as an embargo on the delivery of tall buildings outside of those identified building zones. The local plan is quite clear that in those instances, it should be assessed against the wider criteria that's set out within the tall building policy. That's both the tall building policy that's in the newly adopted local plan, but also in the GLA's London plan. And in the case in the London plan, it's also been tested at a planning appeal and in the High Court that those policies are not gateway policies. So in that instance, we have to put forward a case as to why we think material considerations indicate that a tall building is acceptable. And I think the slide on screen at the minute sets out our case essentially, which is we think the public benefits to be delivered by this proposal, principally the delivery of new homes and public realm improvements, affordable workspace, all these things outweigh any associated impacts of the tall building, and it is then for the local authority, in this case Wandsworth, to determine whether or not they agree with that position.
Cheers, Dave. Another kind of more practical question is how these amendments are going to be submitted to the council and whether or not it's going to be a new application or an amendment. So I can cover this one. We will be submitting an amendment to the existing planning application. So essentially, as part of the submission documents, we will be for the most part, be submitting addendums to the previously submitted reports. So that will be kind of statement of conformities, which will sit alongside the various technical documents that have been submitted. There are, of course, certain instances whereby a fresh new report will need to be submitted, including a design and access statement and the townscape and visual impact assessment. So we will be submitting whole new documents for those particular reports and documentations, but there will not be a fresh new planning application submitted as part of that. I think another theme which is coming up, which David, you'll be able to cover off, is around the environmental impacts of a tall building in this location, namely daylight and sunlight impacts. So yeah, if you want to talk about the reports which have been submitted on those, please.
Yeah, so these points have been covered off in the technical reports that were submitted with the original planning application. As a result of these amendments that we're discussing, as Dom's mentioned, we're not submitting a new application. We're submitting a series of revised documents onto the same application. So all those technical assessments are currently being updated to address the impacts associated with the revised scheme as well. I won't go into great detail about exactly what the conclusions drawn in each of those reports are. They're all online, and we're happy to share them afterwards if anyone would like us to send them across. But things like daylight, sunlight, overshadowing, wind impacts, traffic impacts, and impacts on the local highways network, and townscape impacts, for instance, on the setting of listed buildings, including the Battersea Bridge itself. Those have all been assessed and are all available online. Again, it's for the council to independently assess each of those documents and the conclusions drawn within them to determine whether or not the impacts associated with this development are acceptable. So that's an exercise yet to be carried out by the council.
Cheers, Dave. Lloyd, there's a question on construction and the impacts on traffic along Battersea Bridge. So if you could cover that one, that'd be great, please.
Yeah, sure. So I've seen sort of some of the questions that are coming through, and so I think the theme is really around how might that impact traffic on Battersea Bridge Road, which is seen to be busy at the moment. It will obviously have some level of impact. Construction traffic by its nature does, but our intention is to minimise that as best possible. We've produced a construction logistics plan and construction traffic management plan, which forms part of the application documents, which can be viewed, which at this stage are preliminary. The process of managing construction is a live process. Our intention is to utilise the existing bus stop that sits outside the site. That will be suspended for a period of time during construction. Those buses and bus routes that serve that stop at the moment, namely the 170 and the 19, and there's a few others, but they will remain being served to the south. There's a bus stop that serves all of those routes to the south, either on Battersea Bridge Road or Battersea Church Road for the 170. And by using that road space, which is already allocated for the buses, it means that we won't have so much disruption to the general traffic that has to pass there at the moment, because as has been mentioned, it is a constrained site. Moving forward, what will happen is that there will be a condition of the planning application for a more detailed construction logistics plan to be submitted, and that will take place alongside the appointed contractor so that it can be very specific to how they intend to build it. The programme will be set out in much more detail, but that does have to be approved by Wandsworth prior to being able to make a start on site, should the approval be granted on the application.
Cheers, Lloyd. Seems to be a theme around the split between the affordable and the private, and the fact there are two separate entrances. I can cover this one. I think first and foremost, the design quality between the two will be exactly the same. There will be no difference between the private or the affordable. Far from it. The council have been very, very clear that both the private and the affordable need to be equitable, is the term that they've used, and therefore play provision, gym provision, etc., needs to be entirely equitable, and essentially that there are no such thing as a poor door on this development. The reason why the two or there are two entrances is due to housing associations running and managing the affordable blocks themselves, and it is very much their requirement to have a separate core and a separate management plan, essentially, so that they can, as I say, manage their own units. So that's why it's been designed in that way. With regards to the public realm, Sam, there's a few questions on what that will actually feel like, and whether or not there's going to be seating outside the restaurant and spinning into that space. If you could cover that, please.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, I think the opportunity for us to create suitable usable space at street level, at the upper footpath level, if you like, of the Thames path, within the red line demise of the site itself, we have the building has been set back from where existing footprint is, so that from the building to the river, there will be space within the site for seating to be activated by the ground floor use of the building, the restaurant that may be there, or the F&B offer that will be there. This will able to be seating provided by the restaurant. Also, there'll be some fixed and permanent seating as well. So this all sits in with the demise of within the demise of the area that will be somewhat identified by the RCA's rolling sequence of sculpture items and elements. So we've sort of created and had some really good conversations with the RCA on what the sort of the brief and the scope and the requirements of the site are for the pieces. And then beyond the red line and within the demise of the Thames Walk itself, there's also additional locations for seating as well, which is in the adopted highway, which forms part of what is the current Thames Path as well. But we also have the opportunity for that to be at the same upper level for a good view over the river and for views looking to the west as well, because you do have sort of a promontory there that will give you the view to the west across the other side of the river. And then in doing so, we're also providing a wider and compliant route and access from the road, from Battersea Bridge Road down to the Thames Path, which is also great. And then that just links into the existing connection along to Albert Bridge, and then more seating that exists along there as well.
Right, cheers, Dan. There's a few questions on the conversations with the relevant aviation authorities. So yeah, David, do you want to talk about the various discussions and the fact that they're a statutory consultation group?
Yeah, so the heliport's obviously reasonably close by to the site. We're kind of in the area of the flight path of some of the airports, notably Heathrow as well. So we've been engaging with them before we submitted the planning application. So we undertook meetings, especially with the heliport, to understand any concerns they had. And again, they're a statutory consultee on the planning application as well. So they were notified when we submitted the application. They had an opportunity to provide comments, and they'll be notified again as part of the resubmission, and have a further opportunity to provide comments.
Cheers, Dave. Peter, can you go into a bit more detail on the actual choice of materiality and why we've ended up where we have in terms of the terracotta, etc.?
Yes, sure, Dom. I mean, terracotta is a quite widely used material in London. You know, we're talking about glazed terracotta. We're not talking about kind of a muff finish to that. What we're looking at is a robust, long-living material. You know, we have all these requirements to make the facades and facade first, to make the buildings quite sustainable. So we're looking for something which is going to be a natural. It's not going to be a glass, which we're trying to control the environment inside. So we're trying to create something that has natural kind of how it works, how it feels. So the choice of terracotta, it's a very flexible material. It's a sustainable material. We'll be using it to also in a particular color, which is a kind of a very light gray. We've done studies on that, which is going to change the way the tower and the building actually, not just the tower, but the lower rise also feels during the day. So that it will pick up the sky, it will pick up the light, whether it's day or night. So the building will change throughout the day by reflectivity, by absorbance, and by change of color. As I said, it's a very robust, long-term material. There's a lot of fire issues now with a lot of other materials, so we are looking at something which can be maintained, which is going to last for a very long time, and has an inherent quality to how it's used. So again, it's an evolving kind of feel to the tower during the day, during the months, during the years, how it changes, reflective from the water, reflection from the sky. So I think it's one of those materials which gives a lot of flexibility and gives a lot of kind of beauty to a product, to architectural design.
Cheers, Pete. I can see there's a lot of questions or more questions on construction, and in particular the pit lane, which we'll be looking to introduce and how that's going to impact the bus stop. So Lloyd, if you cover that off shortly, but just to highlight really that as part of the resubmission, there will be a detailed construction management plan which will be submitted alongside that. And if anyone would like to see sight of that, would like to review that, and then if there are any follow-up questions, please reach out to the info@glassmill email address. We will forward that on to you, and then if you have any further questions, we can just cover that off. But Lloyd, if you want to just cover off the pit lane and how that's going to
yeah, sure. Yeah, so we have been in discussions with both Wandsworth and TfL in relation to construction access, and what is the best method to do that, and that includes obviously engagement in relation to the bus stop. And whilst there's no doubt that the suspension of the bus stop would have some impact to some people, because of anyone looking to access those services, if they were to the north, for example, because of the river, would access them from other bus stops otherwise. And the other bus stops that will exist and will be retained to access them are within 180 metres to the south. The actual diversion for people to access them, whilst for some people that will obviously mean a longer journey, it wouldn't be significant for the majority of people, and it's considered to be the least disruptive way to be able to access the site. The actual way in which that would work is a sort of pit lane solution. So vehicles would pull up along curbside. The intention, as it stands at the moment, would be to have a pedestrian protected gantry that where the vehicles park up, goods would be lifted off from and over, so that the footpath can remain open, which means that pedestrians still can move in and around the building and along Battersea Bridge Road as they do at the moment. And that also offers opportunities for set down of material on that space that sits above as well, so that say particularly the vehicles, in terms of their arrivals and scheduling, it means that they can be there less dwell time, material deposited quickly, and moved on, so that it can be managed appropriately. I think actually, I would add one more thing actually, Dom, as well. It's probably worth saying. I did mention that the construction management plan is a kind of live document, and the logistics of the site will remain live. So it's worth saying that Rockwell do have in-house construction specialists themselves, which isn't always the case for developers, and they work quite closely alongside the appointed contractor and members of the public throughout the build. So it is something that can evolve over time and will adjust and will be reactive, but very much it is important and embedded within there that there'll be a public engagement piece, and how that takes place, how you can kind of report to Rockwell, the contractor, raise issues and discuss them. So it's not a case that approval happens and nothing else. It is an ongoing dialogue between members of the public, Wandsworth and Rockwell.
Cheers, Lloyd. And I think probably just to add to that, there will be, should we get planning permission, there will be a condition associated to construction management, etc., which everyone will be notified of, consulted on, and you'll therefore have an opportunity to comment on the proposals which are submitted to discharge that condition. There are quite a few questions on retrofit and whether or not we have looked at that as a viable option. So Peter, if you could answer that, and then I think if we come on to the brownfield point and why we're referencing this as a brownfield development site, which David, if you could cover off, please.
I'll start with the retrofit. Of course, we have looked at retrofitting and using the existing building and the frame for residential proposals. The issue with retrofitting the existing building is primarily with the capacity of the building and the frame of what it can do. So it's in our design access statement, which is online, there's studies there which are referred to. The current kind of housing crisis suggests that we need to provide more homes. Our best endeavors were kind of quite low numbers of residential units which can be provided in the if you were to retrofit the existing building, with quite high degree of complexity, especially if you have to have private and affordable on the same site. So the units were significantly lower than what we are proposing now, which obviously is not optimizing the site, which is part of the agenda by the mayor and the GLA. So it's really, yes, you can. Of course, you can convert anything. You can convert any building. However, are you really optimizing the site? Are you providing the most benefits, which a site like this can give, especially where we are currently in London? So this is really the answer to that question. Dave?
That's great.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah, I think there's a few queries on whether or not this qualifies as brownfield land. So the definition of brownfield land set out in national policy, and it is basically previously developed land, which of course this is. It's occupied by an existing building, so therefore it's brownfield land.
Thank you. There's a few questions on the community space at the rear and whether or not we've got some occupiers lined up for that, and also the restaurant space. So with regards to restaurant space, typically restaurateurs don't really submit expressions of interest until their plans are slightly more worked up and you're kind of coming out of the ground. That being said, we have spoken to a number of retail agents who have kind of soft tested the space. They've also fed into the layout to make sure it is truly a usable restaurant space, and the unsurprisingly, the feedback there is that this is a great location for a restaurant, and there will undoubtedly be a great deal of interest. With regard to the community space at the rear, I think I touched upon at the when I was going through this slide on the computer, but we've had some really positive discussions with 3 local charities, all of who are very keen to take on this space. They have fed into the design, and the fact that it's split over 3 floors is a kind of a key requirement. Not that it's split over 3 floors, but the fact that there are significant breakout spaces, because the majority of the work that these various charities do, it's kind of not just one activity that goes at a time, and there's sometimes need to be some private breakout space to talk with families, or there might be you know, Alcoholics Anonymous, let's say, space where people need to kind of have breakout private privacy space. So all 3 of the charities have reviewed the plans, and as I say, have formally submitted an expression of interest that that they want to take on the space. There's also a question on the affordable workspace and how we've kind of come up with that and how we've set the rates for that. So David, do you want to cover that off, please?
Yeah, there is. So the workspace is it's the rent levels are basically set out within the Wandsworth local plan, and there's a guidance document as well on this. So to qualify as affordable workspace, it has to be a certain level of discount against normal market rate rent levels for office accommodation in this specific location, and that'll be secured as part of the legal agreement as well. So basically, they'll be discounted in perpetuity, and that'll qualify that space as affordable workspace in line with the local plan definition.
Cheers, Dave. There is a question on what the name of the building will be. I think it's fair to say we're not at that stage yet, but I think One Battersea Bridge is a nice name. Questions are slowing, and I appreciate that we are approaching 8 p.m. So please do put any more questions in the Q&A spot. Dan, there is another question on the public realm and how we have made sure that the disabled ramp is still compliant. Don't know if you can answer that one, please.
Yeah, so the current ramp and step configuration that gets you from Battersea Bridge Road down to the Thames Path, the steps are adequate, if not slightly hard to find. The ramp is a non-compliant ramp in the sense of what is accessible in terms for anyone of any ability to be able to use. So the opportunity that we're provided with is to extend the length of the ramp, which it will do by going perpendicular away from the building towards the river and then run parallel with the river and come back on itself, so that in creating that length, we create an accessible gradient that gets us from Battersea Bridge Road down to the Thames Path or vice versa for people of all and every ability. We still have steps, but they will be wider and more direct. So the combination of the two will provide a more navigable, accessible, and ultimately a more permeable space between Battersea Bridge Road and the Thames Path. Thank you.
Cheers, Sam. There's a few questions on whether or not Rockwell will seek to try and renegotiate the planning permission. Should we get one? I can confirm that that's absolutely not going to be done. We have a construction arm. When we get planning, we will be seeking to start on site as soon as we possibly can, and we will be building it out. We are not in the industry to try and renegotiate Section 106 or anything like that. We've been in this for over 3 years already, and there's absolutely no chance that we'll be seeking to renegotiate Section 106 or the affordable housing or anything like that. So I'm just filtering through. One question on whether or not we've got a M&E consultant appointed on this yet. So we have had M&E advice, of course, feeding into the sustainability strategy and to feed into how the building mechanics actually work. But there will, of course, be an opportunity at a later date to tender for that if anyone is interested in doing so. Just filtering through some final questions. There is another one on the affordable housing. As I say, we have already got 3 or 2 expressions of interest from registered providers, both of whom operate within the borough, on the basis that we have increased the number of units. It is now the intention to go back out to the market and try and get some more expressions of interest. But I think what is very, very true to say is that there are a number of housing associations who would like to partner with us and build this out. And as I say, that is very much a key benefit to Wandsworth, and something that we're very passionate in trying to deliver. So I think, just to sum up, firstly, thank you everyone who dialed in. Thank you everyone who participated in the questions. If we haven't answered your question or you have some follow-up questions, please drop the info@Glassmill an email and a message, and we will come back to you on specific points, or if you would like some documentation to be sent across to you. And I think it's probably helpful just to sum up really what the key amendments are to the planning application. The application which was submitted for planning was at ground plus 33 stories. We are amending that to ground plus 28 stories. The affordable housing of the scheme that was submitted was 35% at a 70-30 split weighted to social rent. We are changing that and increasing the affordable housing offer to 50%, all of which are going to be social rent. And in terms of actual number of units that will deliver, that will be 54 units, which has the capabilities of housing circa 190 people on Wandsworth's ever-growing waiting list, which is currently at over 13,000. So again, thank you everyone for dialing in. As I say, if you have any follow-up questions or you don't feel that we answered your questions in enough detail, please do drop us a line and we will come back to you on that. So thank you everyone for your time, and no doubt speak soon. Many thanks.